My window to get this pond project fixed opens right now, and I need to just get in there today and get it done. So I'll talk while I'm digging, but there's not going to be a lot of speeches at the beginning. I will give you like the 30-second version of what the project is for the people who are new here. So a couple years ago, I turned my small pond into a medium-sized pond by digging this expansion, but I left an island and a bridge, and I'm in the process of building a second bridge. Then I ran into a problem that this pond island is eroding because the vertical bank on this side was straight up and down, and it needed some slope. So what I'm doing now is building that slope by stacking stone and piling clay on it, and then stacking stone and piling more clay on it. I was wanting to get this dried out before I went down in there, but I think I can drive down in it with standing water and just work my way down based on my previous experience with the way this ground dries and what's under it. The machine that I'm using for this is the Sunward SWE35UF. I've been really impressed with this mini excavator so far. Compared it head to head to a Bobcat machine and my cheaper Chinese excavator that I've got. I just really think it's a great machine. Now, a lot of people are going to make the same comment I always get, that I need a much larger excavator. And of course, that's true. You're right. I'm not trying to argue with you, but I just believe in using what you have. And what I have is this. And I could spend more money renting another machine, but I also think people underestimate what you can do with a small machine if you've got a little bit of patience. My situation, like probably a lot of you, is that I've got more time than I have money. So I'm going to use my time and save my money. So to this point, all I've done is break the little dam that was separating this water from this water, so that when I start pumping here, it should all flow down and we can get this dried out. I'm really grateful to Champion Power Equipment for providing the pump I'm using in this series. One pull. Sometimes I have to prime it and sometimes I don't. If it was full of water before, I don't have to prime it, but I should have this time. I think if I let this cap open, it'll prime. There it goes. All I had to do was barely crack that top and it primed. All right, well, it's still a sloppy mess, but I've pulled some water out. Now my thought is, take all this wet, sling it over there, take this and sling it up there so that I still have a low spot there, then work the machine down to here, start throwing material up here to get the job done. Now, I wouldn't recommend somebody watching this and then trying to do the exact same thing, because I'm pretty sure that in a lot of different soil conditions, you might get this machine stuck right here. But I'm already familiar with what my ground is like. And beneath the first few inches of mud and sludge, it is pretty easy to get this to dry out. That clay just doesn't let anything penetrate. So if you peel a layer off, then you can drive on top of that next layer without getting stuck. At least that was my experience so far. Now, this project is a lot bigger than what I've described so far in this video. I'm talking about only the part of it that I'm trying to get done today, which is reinforcing the pond island so that it does not continue to erode. But the actual scope of the project is so much bigger. I'm going to make this entire section of the pond larger than it previously was. I'm going to change the way the banks are sloped. I'm going to finish the second bridge, and I've actually already bought the metal for that second bridge, and it's going to be started as soon as I get this part of the pond dug out. But even that is not the end of the project. I'm thinking I will probably cover all of the banks on this part of the pond with riprap, but that part I haven't made up my mind on. Well, that sucks. I got a big fluid leak on the fitting on the grapple, and I'm not going to go get a fitting today. So I guess we'll just see if we can use the bucket to move these rocks. I want to take a lot of these big rocks right here and drop them down on my ramp. And I've got the machine positioned where I can reach the ramp and I can reach the top of the pile and get all these placed. I was going to take the grapple and try to hand pick only the largest rocks and then try to drop them in the perfect spot. But with the bucket, I'm going to say to heck with it. I'm just going to see if I can bulldoze all of this down into my ramp, block my ramp off where the machine's stuck down there, and I've got to move all those rocks to get out of the hole. So, forcing myself into finishing. I love the mini skid steer for something like what I'm doing right here. You're so close to your work, you got great visibility, and it just feels like it's easier to control what you're doing, especially compared to using a tractor for the same job. And with a track machine, you've got a lot of pushing power, really, for the weight of the machine. Your ability to push through this pile is better than you might expect. Now, for the people who are new here and you're wondering about the stone I'm using, this is sandstone that I take off of Rock Hill. I've cut a little over 1,000 foot of trail across the top of the hill on my property that is pretty much solid rock. And that rock is all sandstone, and it varies from the size of a softball up to rocks that weigh 5,000 and 10,000 pounds. There are literally some of them that I don't own a piece of equipment that could move these rocks. And I've been using my dump trailer to bring that rock down off the hill, and I'm using it for this pond dam project. Then I might try using it as riprap, even though it's not technically the right material for that. I think it'll do the job. I mean, rock is rock, and it's just supposed to stop erosion and stop weeds from coming up through. When all of this is done, I think I'm going to try selling sandstone if anyone wants to buy it. I put about 5 or 6 hours on the machine today during this project, and a lot of that footage from the point of view of the camera looks pretty similar. I'm stacking rock, then I bang on the rock and try to press it into the clay or the dirt that I'm setting it on. And once that's all packed in, I'll put a layer of the clay out of the bottom of the pond up onto that newly placed rock. And once I do that, I just put more rock on top. And I'm trying to match the contour of the existing island and just build it up in layers. Now I'm going to cut out a lot of this footage because even if I've got it fast forwarding like this, where I'm playing this at 4 times or even 8 times normal speed, it's just a lot of repetitive footage. So let's skip ahead. Well, that was really disappointing. I thought all that stuff was going to just fall off there, and it didn't. It all just sitting here on the hill. I did not see that coming. And I got the machine down there where I want it, and I was wanting to just let it sit there and just work from that spot. And now I can't. I'm going to have to come over here and grab these. Same commentary that I had earlier, in that I've got hours of footage of this part of the project, and it looks a lot like the other part. So I'm going to skip most of it, but just to understand what I was dealing with on this, my big problem was I don't have enough reach. So for all the people saying my machine's not big enough, you're right. I needed about 2 more feet of reach. So it took a lot of setting the material up there and then pushing it back with the back of the bucket. So on this side, we're built up pretty much high enough. Now this is going to have to settle. I'm going to have to work at packing this. You know, that's another step in the process, is that this is going to pack down. And then hopefully, you know what, I probably won't finish the top of this yet. When I get this all done, I think I'll let it pack for a while, and then like months from now, I'll put topsoil and grass seed on it. So I'm glad to have the height that I need here, and I've extended this out so far. I mean, that's out there a long way, that now I can cut back that bank, make the pond bigger, and then have an area in front of this where we can walk and even set chairs to fish from. This is actually sticking out further than I wanted. I was assuming it would be the other problem of not getting it out far enough. Only thing is I've made it stick out so far that I can't quite reach this spot right here. So I almost need to try to dig some of that out right there and throw it up here if I can. And then this rock here, I got dumped up here, but it's sitting funny and it's too heavy for me to manhandle. Whoa! Nope. I couldn't move that if my life depended on it. So I need to work the machine in closer and try to push that machine. That rock needs to be flipped over and set right here. But by getting some of these big rocks right up against here, and then having so much material there, this isn't going to slide out. This is pretty tough work conditions right here, and I've got to say, I just couldn't be more impressed with this little machine. It's smooth to operate. It's giving me no problems at all. I've compared it head to head with the Bobcat, and it's got the same reach, the same lift power. There was really no quality differences I could find in between the two machines. When I dug this pond expansion, I only made this side of the pond about 6 foot deep. And I would say that the excavator right now is sitting 3 or 4 foot deeper, probably at least 3 foot deeper than the original pond depth. And that is another one of the secondary projects that I'm trying to accomplish here, is to make the whole thing deeper. Now, most of the year,
the water level comes up to about 8 to 10 inches below the top of the island. So there's usually enough water under that bridge that you can't tell that it's a shallow area. But I would like to dig out the area under both bridges so that those land bridges don't pop out when the water level gets low in the winter. Being able to drain just this side of the pond was really helpful for this project. But in general, I don't want two separate ponds. I want this to all be one continuous pond. And, during the rainy season, the fish can swim back and forth between the two sides. But I think now that this should be the last time I have to drain it down, it's time to fully connect it at depth. And that is after I tried digging out some of the other side of the pond. So there's going to be a lot more videos about this project.
I really struggled to get the machine up that steep bank because I accidentally made it steeper. So before I go back down in there, I'm going to have to redo that. But part of the fight of getting it up here resulted in rolling the track off. And that's a surefire way to roll a track off. So I'll have to start the day tomorrow by putting this track back on. So as we look at it here, I do have an interesting question on this material, because I said if the type of ground changes, then I have to stop digging. And I thought maybe this was shale, but man, this stuff, I think this is still good clay bottom material. I don't know. But this stuff, I mean, this is perfect clay. I could sell this stuff by the truckload. The whole bottom side of this 20 acres is like this. It's all like clay, goes deep out here. So now what I've got to do, I've got to get this stuff compressed down and packed in. And I'll do some manual work on doing that in the next video. But then also, I'm going to let time do some of that work and rain and beat this down. And what I'm hoping for, and what's going to happen whether I want it to or not, is we will see some amount of erosion, and we'll see settling and all of those types of things. That's perfectly fine, because what I wanted here was a little shelf. I was picturing it a little smaller than it is, and we might still throw some more material up in some of these spots. But I want a shelf right here that comes out at least 2 feet, maybe 3. And then the long-term plan is cover that shelf in topsoil. And then put grass seed across it. And then this side needs some work, but it's a much less significant problem. Now, I would like to dredge the whole pond out and make this whole side deeper, but that's a minor problem. I'm not going to lose my island. This is the same width it was whenever I did it. I might come over here with the machines when the other side's done and reshape this. But essentially what I've done right now is I've made it where there's very little water holding area left over here. I mean, from here over there is 30 feet or something, 8 foot deep. But I think I'm going to back this bank up all the way, at least to match the angle of that ramp, all the way around. And then I've already bought metal to finish the bridge across here, so that's definitely happening now that I've spent the money on it. I feel like this is really good progress. So I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.